Imagine realizing the only way to fix a devastating self-inflicted mistake is to just commit an absolute atrocity.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. And, before we even step into one of the most chaotic texts in ancient history today, I want to offer a divine blessing for your day and for your entire week ahead. May you find peace, clarity, and purpose in everything you do.
It is great to be here. And honestly, we are definitely going to need that peace and clarity today because the text we are examining is just, well, it's staggering.
It really is. So we are plunging into Judges chapter 21 today. And to help us navigate this, we are relying on the historical context and the incredibly rigorous theological notes from two major sources.
Right. The Holman Study Bible and the Nova Almeida Actualizada, or the NAA Study Bible.
Exactly. And our mission today is to explore the catastrophic aftermath of an ancient civil war in Israel.
But I mean, beyond just the history, we are looking at the extreme lengths human beings will go to when they are desperately trying to engineer a way out of a disaster they completely created themselves. Which, is a very human impulse. Like, when you look at ancient religious texts, there is often this expectation from modern readers that things will just be orderly.
Right.
Like moral engineering. You follow a rule, you get a good result. You break a rule, you get a bad result.
It should be simple.
Mm-hmm.
But then you step into the world of Judges chapter 21, and that compass is just spinning wildly.
Oh, completely.
So to understand the sheer panic we're about to see, we need to set the stage for you. The sources tell us that Israel has just finished a devastating civil war. 11 of the tribes of Israel essentially banded together to fight against one of their own.
The tribe of Benjamin.
Right, Benjamin. And it was a brutal, total war. But before the battle even began, the Israelites gathered in a place called Mizpah, and they made this massive, solemn oath before God. They swore, none of us will give his daughter in marriage to a Benjamite.
Yeah.
Now help me picture this. What is the mindset behind making a vow like that right before going into combat?
Well, it comes from a place of absolute righteous fury. The rest of Israel was horrified by a previous atrocity that had been committed within the territory of Benjamin. So they draw this incredibly hard line in the sand.
Okay, that makes sense.
By making this vow, they are essentially saying, we are cutting you off from the future of our people. Like, you are no longer part of our family tree.
So they are acting in the heat of anger. I mean, adrenaline is high.
Yeah.
But then the war actually ends, and Benjamin is utterly crushed.
Utterly.
The Israelites wipe out almost the entire tribe, leaving only 600 men alive just hiding out in the wilderness. And suddenly, all that adrenaline just wears off.
Yeah, reality sets in.
Right. The text says that the next day, the Israelites gather at Bethel, and they are just weeping bitterly before God. They realize that their total victory means the tribe of Benjamin is facing imminent extinction.
And the Holman commentary really highlights this profound psychological whiplash. Israel was so fiercely committed to this rigid vow, prosecuting what they felt was a holy war against their brothers.
Right. They thought they were doing the right thing.
Exactly. But in the quiet of the morning after, they are completely paralyzed by the reality of losing an entire tribe. I mean, the 12 tribes were the foundational structure of their identity as a people. To lose one was just unthinkable.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around their emotional state here.
Yeah.
Is it basically like the ultimate catastrophic morning after a hangover?
That is a great way to put it.
I'm picturing a scenario where, someone is involved in a vicious, prolonged lawsuit against a family member. You are so blinded by the need to win, the need to be morally vindicated, that you utterly ruin them.
Right.
You take their house, their savings, everything. And then you wake up the next day, the anger is gone, and you realize, wait, I just destroyed my own brother. Like, the victory actually becomes this massive defeat. Does that capture what the commentaries are describing?
That captures it perfectly. The NAA Study Bible notes specifically describe this as a chaotic consequence. The war against Benjamin didn't solve any of Israel's deeper spiritual or social problems.
It just made things worse.
Exactly. It just created a vacuum of despair. They are grieving, but they feel entirely trapped.
This is where I struggle, though. If they woke up and realized they made a terrible, hot-headed mistake, why not just say, God, we messed up. We take the vow back.
Yeah, just undo it.
Right. Why can't they just let their daughters marry the survivors and rebuild?
Well, to a modern reader, that seems like the logical, even the moral thing to do. Just repent and fix it. But we have to look at the theology of the ancient Near East, which both the Holman and NAA scholars spend a lot of time unpacking.
Okay.
In that era, you do not simply cancel a solemn vow made in the name of God. A covenant oath wasn't just a promise. It was a binding mechanism tied to divine curses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you invoked God's name to guarantee an action and then you broke it, you fully expended the wrath of God to fall on you and your community.
So they're absolutely terrified of divine retribution if they break the vow, but they are equally terrified of letting one of the 12 tribes of Israel be wiped off the map.
Exactly. They are stuck between a curse and a genocide.
Man. So what is their move?
They need a loophole. They are desperate to find wives for these 600 surviving Benjamite men without technically giving their own daughters.
Okay.
And this leads us to one of the darkest turning points in the narrative. They start looking for anyone who wasn't included in the original vow. They essentially, they audit the attendance records of the assembly at Mizpah.
Wait, hold on. Why audit the attendance? Were they hoping to find some loophole in the paperwork?
Exactly, because alongside the vow not to give their daughters to Benjamin, the assembly had made a secondary vow.
Okay, what was it?
They swore that anyone who didn't attend the gathering at Mizpah would be put to death.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so they checked the census, and they discovered that no one from a specific city, Jabesh-Gilead, showed up to the meeting.
I have to pause you right here because reading this part of the text just stopped me in my tracks.
It's rough.
Instead of repenting for a foolish, hot-headed vow, they are going to try to fix a massacre by committing another massacre.
Yes.
They literally go down the bureaucratic checklist, realize Jabesh-Gilead missed the meeting, and decide to use that as an excuse to solve their political crisis.
It is entirely chilling. The assembly sends 12,000 of their bravest warriors to Jabesh-Gilead with horrific orders. Annihilate the entire city, men, women, and children.
Unbelievable.
The only people they spare are 400 young virgin women whom they take captive to give to the Benjamites as wives.
How does anyone justify that? Like, how do the scholars writing these study notes even make sense of that cognitive dissonance?
Yeah.
They revere God enough to not break a vow, but they don't revere God enough to avoid mass murder.
Well, the commentaries do not let them off the hook at all. Both the NAA and Holman texts point out a terrible irony in the mechanism they use here.
What's the irony?
The destruction leveled against Jabesh-Gilead mirrors a concept called the ban. It was the total devotion of a conquered hostile city to God, a tactic Israel was historically commanded to use against Canaanite enemies.
But they are using it on their own people.
Exactly. Tragically, they are turning this weapon of total annihilation inward, unleashing it on an Israelite city.
And what really strikes me is the silence of it all. Like, they don't send an envoy to Jabesh-Gilead to ask why they missed the meeting.
No questions asked.
They don't try to negotiate. They just send 12,000 warriors with swords. Did God tell them to do this?
No, and that is a crucial point that the Holman notes are very explicit about. God is entirely silent here.
Wow.
There is absolutely no command, no direction, and no sanction from God for the massacre at Jabesh-Gilead. Israel is operating entirely on its own supposed wisdom.
They're just making it up as they go.
Yes, they are trying to engineer their way out of a divine vow using human bloodshed. They have substituted true wisdom for self-serving violence, all just to keep their original oath technically intact.
If you are listening to this right now and thinking, how did they think this is a good idea?
Yeah.
You aren't alone. I mean, the text seems designed to shock us.
It definitely is.
So the warriors return from this bloodbath with 400 captive women, and they give them to the surviving Benjamites. The brutal plan supposedly works, but there is a glaring mathematical problem here.
A major one.
They procured 400 women, but we established earlier there are 600 Benjamite men. They're exactly 200 wives short.
Wow.
This massive bloody atrocity didn't even fully solve the problem.
Which perfectly illustrates the absolute futility of trying to patch up a moral failing with a legalistic technicality.
Yeah.
The core problem is still staring them right in the face. The tribe of Benjamin is still not fully restored, and now the elders of Israel have the blood of an entire city on their hands for nothing. So they have to huddle up again and find yet another loophole for these remaining 200 men.
And this brings us to a sequence that is honestly bizarre. I want to look closely at how the text describes their next move. The elders remember that there's an annual religious festival dedicated to the Lord happening in Shiloh. But in Judges 21, they don't just say, hey, go to the festival at Shiloh. They give incredibly specific GPS-like directions.
They really do.
They literally say, look, There is the yearly festival of the Lord at Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem and south of Lebonah. Why in the world is the text pausing to give us map coordinates?
It is a strangely detailed geographical parenthesis right in the middle of a frantic narrative.
It was so weird. When I read that, it felt like having to give a New Yorker turn-by-turn directions to Times Square.
Right.
I mean, Shiloh wasn't just some random village. At this point in history, it was the religious center of Israel. The tabernacle was there. Why on earth do the leaders of Israel need to give their own people exact coordinates to their major religious festival?
That detail is exactly where the Holman commentary provides a brilliant yet incredibly tragic historical insight.
What do they say?
The scholars suggest that this geographic over-explanation is a massive red flag about the spiritual state of the nation.
Okay.
It implies that Israel had been living in such deep spiritual apostasy, such widespread rebellion against God, that the general population had literally stopped attending their own holy festivals. They hadn't been to Shiloh in so long that they had forgotten where it was.
Wow. So just let that sink in. They are fiercely defending a vow they made in God's name to the point of slaughtering a city, but they don't even know where God's tabernacle is located anymore.
Exactly.
The hypocrisy is just layers upon layers.
It reveals a society that has retained the empty shell of religious legalism, the fear of breaking a rule, but has completely lost any actual relationship with the divine.
So sad.
So the elders give them the map to Shiloh, and then they lay out their scheme, and it is deeply disturbing.
Yeah, it really is. The elders instruct the remaining 200 Benjamite men to go to Shiloh and physically hide in the vineyards. They tell them to watch for the local young women who come out to perform traditional dances as part of the festival.
Right.
And when the women are dancing, the men are supposed to burst out of the vineyards, kidnap a woman each, and run back to the territory of Benjamin.
They are taking a sacred religious festival and turning it into the scene of an ambush.
But just from a purely logistical standpoint, kidnapping 200 women from your own people right in the middle of a major public event is going to cause an uproar.
Oh, absolutely.
The fathers, the brothers, the families of these young women are going to be furious. They're going to demand justice, maybe even start another civil war. How do the elders of Israel possibly plan to deal with the fallout?
This is where the legalism reaches its absolute sickening peak.
Okay.
The elders tell the Benjamites, "Don't worry, we will act as mediators." They promise that when the furious fathers and brothers come to complain, the elders will step in and say, "Have pity on them for our sakes because we didn't get enough wives for them in the war."
Wow.
And then here is the clincher. They will tell the fathers, "Because you didn't give your daughters to them willingly, you technically didn't break the vow."
Wait, am I understanding this right? Let me pitch an analogy to you. Is this basically like a mob boss finding a slick tax loophole to justify a heinous crime?
Basically, yes.
They are going to look these grieving fathers in the eye and say, look on the bright side. Since your daughter was violently kidnapped from you, your hands are clean, you didn't give her away, so the oath to God is perfectly intact.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. They are prioritizing the exact technical wording of their vow over the basic safety, dignity, and human rights of these young women.
It's awful.
It is a stunning display of moral bankruptcy. The Holman commentary brings this into sharp focus by looking at the broader themes of the book.
What do they point out?
It points out that this strategy, sacrificing the well-being of women to solve the political and social problems created by men, echoes earlier horrific events throughout the Book of Judges.
Right, there's a pattern.
Again and again, women are marginalized, victimized, or sacrificed on the altar of male pride and reckless vows. It's not just a single bad decision. It paints a picture of total moral depravity. The society has rotted from the inside out.
They check all the boxes of the law while violating every spirit of the law. They don't break the vow, but they shatter their own humanity in the process.
And this leads us to the grand thematic climax of not just this chapter, but the entire Book of Judges. The NAA commentary draws our attention to the final, famous concluding verse of the book, Judges 21.25.
Oh, I know this verse.
Yeah. After all this chaos, all this bloodshed, the destroyed cities, and the kidnapped women, the author summarizes the entire era with one chilling sentence. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That is haunting because to them, in their own twisted logic, all of this actually was right.
Yeah, in their minds, they were saving the day.
Saving the tribe of Benjamin was right. Keeping the vow was right. If they had to slaughter a city and kidnap 200 women to make the math work, well, The ends justified the means.
The editorial intent behind that final verse is profound. The NAA commentary explains that this entire chaotic, violent narrative isn't just recorded for historical curiosity.
What's the purpose, then?
It is designed to show the absolute catastrophic failure of human wisdom. When humans are left entirely to their own devices, defining morality on their own terms, checking off their own legalistic boxes, the result isn't freedom, it's anarchy. It's brutality.
It's the ultimate failure of self-governance.
The text is intentionally designed to leave the reader completely exhausted and desperate. It sets the historical and theological stage for what comes next in the biblical narrative.
Which is?
Well, the reader is meant to look at this absolute mess and think, we desperately need a righteous leader, we need a unifying king. It directly foreshadows the coming of someone like King David, who, ideally, would lead the people not by self-serving loopholes, but by true divine wisdom.
It really is a masterclass in showing, not just telling, why the system was broken. The X-ray machine of their morality wasn't just murky, it was completely shattered. They tried to fix a broken arm by amputating a leg, and they patted themselves on the back for following the surgical manual while doing it.
That's a great way to put it. They prioritized the preservation of their own righteous image over actual righteousness. They were so afraid of breaking a rule they made up, they broke every underlying principle of justice and mercy.
Which brings us to a thought I want to leave you, our listener, to mull over as you go about your week. As we look at these ancient people tying themselves into violent knots over a technicality, we have to ask ourselves a hard question.
We really do.
How often in our own lives, in our own communities, or in our own societies, do we cling so rigidly to a self-made rule, a tradition, or a desperate need to be technically right, that we end up causing immense collateral damage, just to avoid admitting we were wrong in the first place? It's easy to judge the elders of Israel, but the desire to cover up a mistake rather than confess it is a deeply, sometimes dangerously human trait.
It requires a massive amount of courage to step back and say, the rule we made is destroying us. We need to repent, not find a loophole.
It really does. Thank you for joining us as we unpack this heavy but incredibly important piece of history. We appreciate you taking the time to explore these ancient texts and what they reveal about human nature today. As we close out, I want to leave you with this final thought. God blesses all the listeners. Take care, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.